An official funeral for the late mayor of the Douala 5 municipality, Francois Foning. The decision by the head of state is contained in a decree that was made public today. And also in this newscast, Marcel Nyatinji Fendi, for the second time elected the president of the Senate. It was in the nation's capital, Yaoundé, today. Good evening to you, ladies and gentlemen. You are watching the primetime newscast on Equinox Television. Let's begin right away with obituary. The funeral ceremony of the late mayor of the Douala 5 municipality would kick off tomorrow, March 18th, across the country with the removal of her mortal remains from the Yaoundé General Hospital. The head of state has decreed the funeral ceremony official. A release by the civil cabinet of the presidency states that Francois Foning would be laid to rest in her native Baleng village in the western region of Cameroon. The head of state will be represented at her funeral by Prime Minister, Head of Government, Philemon Yang. Now, the mortal remains of Francois Foning, the former mayor of the Douala 5 municipality, would be arriving the country's economic capital, Douala. That's going to be tomorrow, Wednesday, at exactly 5 p.m. The CPDM family shall pay her honor at the party's headquarters. That's going to be in Bonanjo, here in the economic capital, Douala. Ahead of this series of programs, our reporter for Hansen Chanji visited some of the sites that are going to host the event and now tells us the level of preparations.
Preparations are upbeat in Cameroon's economic capital ahead of the funeral ceremony of Francois Foning, now former mayor of the Douala 5 municipality, and a big week of the ruling Cameroon's People Democratic Movement, the CPDM party. At the family residence in Bepanda, Douala, it is a gigantic picture of Francois Foning that welcomes mourners at the entrance. A funeral program has been placed at the disposal of the general public, just in front of the house. The road leading to the family residence has been retouched. At the time we arrived there, a bulldozer was in active service, rehabilitating the road for accessibility. Chungo Roger, a family member and subsection president of the CPDM Makepe Misoke zone, says preparations in her two residences in Yaoundé and Douala are ongoing simultaneously. Chairs have been arranged for visitors. Workers of the Douala 5 Council are equally beefing up preparations to receive the corpse. Thursday, this Tuesday, close to 10 policemen could be seen guarding the area for any eventuality. At the Reunification Stadium in Douala, where the entire population of the economic capital will honor and pay homage to Francois Foning Thursday at 8:30 p.m. in an all-night wake-keeping. Preparations are also going on smoothly with the electrification of the various stands. The chief of the company in charge, Mokto Henry, tells us the work might be completed Wednesday afternoon. Family members told us that according to tradition and due to her rural status, the late Francois Foning will be buried at her Baleng village and not in the village of the husband. According to official program, the corpse of Francois Foning will be removed from the Yaoundé General Hospital mortuary and taken to the Cathedral Notre Dame de Victoire in the nation's capital, and then transportation to Douala, where political homage will be paid to her at the CPDM party headquarters in Bonanjo. On Thursday, March 19, the corpse will be taken to the vicinity of the Douala 5 Council. Political homage at the council. At 2 p.m. local time, it will be taken to the Reunification Stadium in Douala, where there will be a procession of the entire population, and at 8:30 p.m. local time, there will be an all-night wake-keeping. She will be buried on Saturday, 21st of March, in her native Baleng village in Bafu, Chang, West.
And as we heard, she shall be buried on the 21st of March 2015 in her native Baleng village in the western region of the country. And just to note that she died January 23rd after she was involved in a ghastly road accident which occurred along the Yaoundé-Bafoussam highway. That was in the month of this year, 2015 rather. She died at the Yaoundé General Hospital after spending a few days under intensive medical care. May her soul rest in perfect peace. Now, Masenya Njifendi has been re-elected president of the upper house of parliament. The CPDM senator secured 81 votes with 16 empty ballots, probably from the opposition. It is the second time he is elected at the helm of the Senate. The election of other members of the Bureau of the Senate is still ongoing as we speak. Late Senators Njifua as well as Francis Nkwine would be replaced in the Bureau respectively as Questor and also Chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee. We keep you updated as soon as we are informed. Now, Cameroonians should not worry about the health condition of the president, for Mr. B and wife are on a short private stay in Europe, so says the government spokesperson. Issa Shiroma Bakari was speaking to the press yesterday, refutes allegations found in a recent publication by Le Monde, that's a French newspaper. The communication minister said that President Paul Biya is still managing the affairs of the state and that investors need not to worry. He said that the head of state is in good health. We now take you to Ezeka, that's a locality in the nation's capital, to discover one of the major income-generating activities of the population in that part of the country. The palm oil extracting mill in Ezeka caught the attention of our reporter Roland Akon, who now presents the artisanal method in which it is being produced. His report.
The palm oil tree is useful and economically viable. In Ezeka, in the Nyong and Kele division of the Central region, some villagers are making money through the processing of palm oil obtained from the flesh of the fruit. Bienvenue Nyemek tells us that the palm oil extraction business starts after harvesting the flesh of the fruit. That the good fruit are separated from the bad, then placed into a splitter which splits the palm fruits into smaller pieces. The split fruit is then put into a presser, and the presser presses the oil out, which is then put into large drums which are heated at a high pressure, then refined to obtain palm oil.
Quand c'est suffisamment cuit, c'est en ce moment qu'on doit donc prendre ces fils de palme et mettre dans une presse.
Critics say the method is primitive, labor-intensive, and highly inefficient. That oil of low quality is recovered, and 80% of oil that could potentially be recovered is never recovered and goes to waste. But locals say the local artisanal method is economically viable as they produce several tons of oil per day, which they sell.
J'ai une femme et 5 enfants. Bien sûr, à base de mon huile.
A father of 5 who has been in the business for over 3 years says the palm oil extraction business helps him put food on table and provide for other family needs. There is division of labor in the milling process, and everybody involved in the chain has a reward for labor.
C'est une chaîne qui donne beaucoup de main-d'œuvre.
A 20-liter gallon of palm oil is now sold at 7,000 francs CFA.
And now in news out of Cameroon, voting is underway in Israel in what has so far been termed as a close race between Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's party and a center-left alliance. Mr. Benjamin has so far vowed not to allow the creation of a Palestinian state if he wins a 4th term. Now the center-left Zionist Union on its part has promised to repair relations with Palestinians and the international community. And a progress demonstration has been launched in Berlin as a case on the billions of euros owed Berlin by Germany on the atrocities that was committed during the Second World War is still pending. It is happening at a time when both countries are battling to redefine their relationship, as we hear with the Dutch Welle TV.
Demonstration in Berlin in front of the Federal Finance Ministry of all places. Protesters say Germany owes billions of euros in reparations for Nazi atrocities committed during the Second World War. An evaluation by Bundestag experts has concluded that Greece would definitely have a case if it chose to seek compensation in German courts, even 70 years after the end of the war. Opposition parties are demanding the government withdraw its blanket rejection of reparation claims.
I'm appealing to the government to discuss the matter with Greece, refrain from making harsh statements, and not to maintain from the outset that these claims have no validity.
But the German finance minister is losing patience. He says instead of making demands, Greece should concentrate on getting its finances in order.
As long as the Greek people don't completely grasp how bad their situation is, they won't be able to find a solution to improve things.
The relationship between Schäuble and Greek Finance Minister Yanis Varoufakis has reached new lows, and relations between Athens and Berlin can at best be described as icy.
Still in news out of Cameroon, Amnesty International has said that Syrian airstrikes against Islamic State, that is the ISIS, last November killed dozens of civilians. Governments in Europe are now on high alert to be able to prevent their nationals from joining the extremists. But search is currently underway after a 16-year-old girl is believed to have gone to Syria. The fear of her parents is that she may have joined the group. Details once again with the Dutch Welle TV.
Here in Turkey, near the Syrian border, Elif's father Attila is desperately searching for his daughter. He shows everyone he meets her photo and gives them his address. Elif's family in Munich is counting on him to bring her back.
I can't imagine life without my third child. The thought of her not being here is just horrible.
A year ago, Elif was an average teenager. She wore leggings, she had a tongue piercing and dyed blonde hair. But then she changed. She stopped listening to music and became completely focused on religion. Elif started wearing a headscarf and veil, at first in secret, then more openly. Her parents were concerned but didn't realize how much she had been radicalized.
My whole world fell apart. I couldn't understand why.
Elif had been targeted by Islamic State propagandists. When the family moved, Elif was separated from her friends and felt lonely. On the internet, she met jihadists who were keen to get married. Notebooks Elif left behind mentioned a woman who was recruiting German girls to become brides for IS fighters. One entry reads, "Without her, I wouldn't have had the courage." Apparently, the woman convinced 16-year-old Elif to travel to Syria. The trip was perfectly planned. Elif obviously had help. She used her savings and somehow managed to get hold of a plane ticket. Then she counted the days until her departure.
I saw her on her last day. She wanted to come to the post office with me. She hugged me. Nothing out of the ordinary, except that Elif never did things like that. She even kissed me. I said, "What's up with you?" She said, "Nothing."
Elif left home in the early morning. At Munich airport, the 16-year-old had no problem getting through passport control. There are no clear travel regulations in Germany relating to unaccompanied young people between 15 and 18. Elif's plane took off at 8:10. From Istanbul, she took a bus to the Turkish city of Gaziantep. There, at the bus station, the trail goes cold. That's where her father is looking for her. Once a day, he touches base with the rest of the family back home.
Hallo Attila.
He tells them about his as yet unsuccessful attempts to find Elif.
Don't cry. We'll manage it. We'll find her.
And a report there bringing us to the end of this first segment of the news. Up next is Talking Point. The preoccupying question today is the authority that is supposed to be in charge of communicating happenings at the presidency of the Republic. A case study for tonight is Cameroon, following debates of how the government spokesperson has limits as far as informing the masses on events of the state is concerned. Good evening to you, Barrister Agbo Ashu. We thank you so much for your time.
Good evening, Mimi. Good evening, televiewers.
Before we get to tackle our topic of discussion for tonight, the funeral of Francois Foning is equally top on our agenda, given that you are equally the lawyer of Francois Foning, the deceased herself. Just to find out from you, it has so far been declared a state funeral by the President of the Republic himself. Your reaction, Barrister?
Well, thank you very much. It's the first time I've seen a deceased person rally so much sympathy from all nooks and corners of the country. In fact, I was very surprised when this lady died that nobody has so far raised any finger to say any negative thing about her. Francois Foning, well, will be remembered as a very active politician. The lady who asked Cameroonians to get up from their slumber and support the president, even with their children, even with their wives, and the entire family. Well, my story with her goes as far back as 1985, when I was still a people lawyer. And I've known her since then, and I've been not just her lawyer, but counsel for her entire family.
Now, to you, you think that the reactions of Cameroonians is quite surprising. Is it a good sign?
Yes. It's a good sign. It's a very good sign, indicating that we remain united in our diversity.
Looking at the level of mobilization nationally, we see Yaoundé preparing for events to take place in that part of the country as far as her funeral is concerned. Here in the economic capital, Douala, we equally watched a report by a reporter for Hansen Chanji looking at the level of preparations at the country's economic capital, Douala. Same goes for the west region of the country, which is actually a native village in Baleng in the west region of Cameroon. How can you appreciate the level of mobilization nationwide?
Well, everything has been carefully planned. You're talking of the level of mobilization. I remember there was a commission that was a high-handed commission that was formed in Douala here, and people came from Yaoundé to supervise, and instructions were given that accounts be opened in certain banks for all monies received to be channeled in, so that this funeral should go on hitch-free, and no stories of embezzlement should erupt thereafter. So I think it is very impressive looking at what has been happening. So many people have been committed, has given up their time even to draw up the program for the funeral program. It wasn't an easy thing. It took something like a whole week for a team of about 50 people to come up with that program. So,
Barrister, just to find out from you, you claimed that ever since her passing, nobody has been able to say any negative thing as far as she is concerned, but she was not yet buried, but the problem of succession at the Douala 5 municipality was already surfacing. Your reaction on that?
Well, the succession problem is not a negative thing concerning her life. Well, you know, human beings are always ambitious, and nature does not accommodate emptiness. When there is a vacant space, people want to occupy it. So that one is a problem inside the CPDM, because they are the people controlling that council, and they should put more order into their ranks to make sure that...
it is also alleged that her son, who is also
one of the councillors,
one of the municipal councillors, may succeed her as mayor of the Douala 5 municipality.
Anything is possible.
How true is that?
Anything is possible. He's a councillor. The mayor is chosen from among the councillors. So if the councillors so decide, well, I think he's quite competent, because he has been the brain. If you ask my opinion, I will tell you that I would prefer that his son be made mayor.
Are you just confirming the fact that he would be?
I'm not confirming. I'm saying that I would prefer his son to be mayor, because he was the brain behind Madame Foning's success at that council.
Now, coming back to our topic of discussion for tonight, our case study, what is actually Cameroon on the role of the communication arm of the presidency of the Republic. How does this arm of the presidency function, Barrister?
Well, you remember very well that at a certain time, the government came out to say rumors come from below and the truth comes from above. And that was because the government was trying to put up a fight against rumor mongering. And the government said journalists and every person should rush towards the government to get the right information. So that is what pushed the government to come up with information cells here and there. But when you look at it carefully, we had this Ministry of Information and Culture. Then now they've turned it into Ministry of Communication. So I see in that the desire by the government to have some official organ that can speak for the government and make it appear as if they are all talking the same language. I know there used to be some communication unit at the presidency, but
there used to be, or there is?
There used to be, because I say there used to be because it has been so dormant. I've not seen. They have no activity since Mr. Chiroma has come public. They have gone dormant since Mr. Chiroma came public. So that's why I say they used to be. Because if they were still operational, I would have expected them to be giving the standpoint of the president on certain issues. But when you listen to Mr. Chiroma,
who is supposed to inform the masses on happenings at the presidency? Who is supposed to do that? Is it the Ministry of Communication or the communication cells of the
normally the civil cabinet is supposed to do that, and they have their communication cells. But from what I'm seeing, it looks like they have decided to channel everything through the Minister of Communications, because I have never seen the presidency come out to disclaim anything said by Mr. Chiroma. He has been saying so many things. So I think that Mr. Chiroma's ministry is being put to work as the government's mouthpiece.
What therefore is the role of the civil cabinet?
To feed the Minister of Communications with all the relevant information he needs to state the government standpoint.
Does it mean that it doesn't have much to do, because it's not all the outings that's been done by the communication minister himself? You remember the scandal at Eric. It was not actually the Minister of Communication that came out and spoke to Cameroonians. And equally, the announcement of this official ceremony of the late mayor of the Douala 5 municipality was not by Issa Shiroma Bakari.
Yes, no, you see,
does this tell us that the communication ministry has its limits?
No, you see, we have to make a difference between the organ that comes out to state the government's position where there is a conflict, where there are so many opinions being tabled and the government wants every person to know that this is my stand, and then a unit that has to bring out information, like the presentation of letters of credence and anniversaries of states and all those type of things. They come from the civil cabinet. You don't need a Minister of Communication to come and tell you that the King of Belgium is 50 years tomorrow. The president has sent a letter congratulating him. You don't need that.
Barrister, are you saying that it is normal that issues that concern the health condition of the President of the Republic, the Minister of Communication should be the one in charge of telling Cameroonians what's happening?
I am saying
that scandal on the website of the presidency, the Minister of Communication, it was within his capacity to tell Cameroonians what was actually happening.
That minister is the most authorized person to do so. I mean, in the government, he is the government's mouthpiece. So if he stands up to talk, it means that his voice is above the communication cell at the presidency. Because if it is something that can be said unequivocally by the presidency, the minister need not come up. If he comes up, it means that it is no longer at the level of the communication cell.
And you earlier said that the civil cabinet has been silent for a while, an indication that it's not probably playing its role.
Yes, I think that their new role that has been assigned to them is probably to collect information and feed the Minister of Communication with.
So it is within his capacity, Barrister.
That's my position.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight on Talking Point. We hope to have you some other time again.
You're welcome.
To our viewers, it was equally a pleasure having you with us in this edition of the Primetime Newscast on Equinox Television. Until we meet again, goodbye.